Hello and welcome to this video on cancer-causing agents and coffee. Recently there has been a series of wild claims made about a variety of everyday items. These range from red meat and sunscreen to glyphosates and Nutella. This video is going to explore how these claims are missing the point, why, how, and in the context of the black gold that is coffee. Now, a quick caveat. It would be wrong to say these claims are malicious, but the contents are often misleading and ignorant, preaching to a concerned, vulnerable audience, who is often as or more ignorant than the original author is. To begin, let's clarify what cancer is. Cancer is an abnormal growth of cells that become malignant as distinct from a tumor, which is generally benign. Cancer occurs when growth control genes or factors are not present, and the immune system either does not, cannot, or will not respond to the presence of abnormal cells for one reason or another. The reason this occurs is often due to mutation in certain genes, such as the p53 tumor suppressor gene. These mutations can occur due to a variety of things, but most common are chemical mutagens. Mutagens cause the gene to change, leading to dysfunction. This can be either increased or decreased functionality. Mutagens, or more accurately carcinogens, have been well studied. As a result, they are often attributed with a ranking or warning. This varies somewhat by country, but the International Agency for Research on Cancer provides a reasonable standard to measure it against. They provide 5 ranks. Group 1, definitively carcinogenic to humans. Group A, probably carcinogenic to humans. Group 2B, possibly carcinogenic to humans. Group 3 is not classifiable as to its carcinogenity, and Group 4 is probably not carcinogenic. These are then used to describe foods, goods, and environmental factors. There is some confusion over the exact degree of risk associated with different foods, goods, and environmental factors on these lists. This is often due to the inconsistent research. In terms of Nutella, Snopes has done a takedown linked in the description below, but to summarize the events leading up to this claim, in 2017, news outlets began to report on a scientific opinion from May 2016, in which some of the processing procedures for Nutella had been highlighted as producing a known carcinogen. As a consequence, companies began to boycott the palm oils that were said to create it. Retailers stopped stocking items with it, and one company stood up and said no to this drama. Ferrero, manufacturers of chocolate and Nutella, were not impressed by headlines reading, "Nutella causes cancer." The important thing to come out of this is that the study looked at relative risk, which is how much more likely would the person be to develop cancer if they added the item to their diet. This is not to say that it is good for health, only what would happen if it was not consumed or if it was consumed. That removing this item from a diet high in the carcinogen-causing group could reduce the considerably wide risk band they were placed in as a consequence of consumption. That claim may seem confusing at first, but to break it down into small pieces, there is coffee. Coffee is one of the most widely consumed beverages in the world, and yet it was classified as a Group 2B carcinogen, possibly carcinogenous to humans, until 1991. It would be fair to assume that this makes it dangerous. The idea is to assume that if no one drank coffee, what would the risk for those people be, and then compare this result with coffee consumers. This often minimizes or ignores other factors such as alcohol and lifestyle, which would affect the result. But this is why in 1991 it was revised to a Group 3 carcinogen of unknown effect or relevance. This summarizes where the IARC put coffee and where it stands now. What should be more apparent is that if coffee is consumed as widely as stated, then it must surely have resulted in a widespread spike in cancer. These diagnoses that made their original designation correct, you would be right to think this. The obvious thought that follows is, where is that spike? And, well, it doesn't exist. That alone should make people think and question such information. This is much the same way that no massive spike has appeared alongside successful advertising campaigns for Nutella. Despite this, in 2016, articles are still being produced, stating that coffee is a known carcinogen. This is much like what happened with Nutella, among others. The evidence from the pre-1991 era was limited. The newer evidence regards hot beverages served above 65 degrees centigrade, a level unlikely to be consumed in most settings. And this is not specific to coffee. Much like the evidence light in Nutella is not specific, but applies to all oil-containing products. Coffee is an unknown variable insofar as it prospectively causes cancer. This is the same idea and same theory as ampicillin, an antibiotic, and bisulfites, which are preservatives in wine. The degree of alarm is not relative to the risk with coffee. More than that, the probable doses of coffee that might prospectively cause cancer are so far beyond the reasonable or realistic consumption of most people that it would be ridiculous to use it as a reference point. Considering that these two examples demonstrate what cancer might be associated with, it is no wonder that no authority supports this conspiracy theory. The claims could generously be described as misguided, or more conservatively as egregious misrepresentations of the facts. The underlying process with all of these categories and claims is summarized by a famous quote: "The dose makes the poison." As with most things in life, the categories for carcinogens are dependent on dose. The category 4 caramel coloring, criticized by the food babe, is known to be a carcinogen. The caveat to this is that it is a likely carcinogen only if you consume it in significantly greater quantities than the average human can drink coffee. This means the caffeine in coffee will kill you well before you have cancer. Similarly with Nutella. Ferrero has long since taken steps to mitigate any of the processes and consequential products of processing that might come from the oils they use. Yet they are tarred with the brush of a carcinogen, a brush which is wildly inaccurate. And coffee. Coffee has been established as being an unlikely, if not at all, a carcinogen, and yet the mark of shame remains for coffee. To summarize the key points from the European Union study, the amount of any chemical they studied required for cancer was highly conservative. As a result, this covered a wide range of doses. Some of these doses were beyond the average intake. Some of these doses were well below the threshold at which evidence supports a dose-dependent cancer risk. As a result, the risk profile is artificially inflated. This leads to a wider recognition from the community, and likely better research funding. However, it also incorrectly identifies risks where there are few or none to speak of, and as a result, products that are otherwise harmless are socially unacceptable and stigmatized. Thank you for watching this video. Please post any comments, questions, or suggestions you may have below.